too, buddy. You too, buddy. Yo, I just want to preface this video and say aim training is probably the least important part of Valorant. Understanding positioning, peeking, rotations and timing are just something that are much more important than raw aim. If you can properly peek, it's much better than if you can flick 90 degrees on the dot. I just want to put that out there because I see a lot of low elo players, especially in like ranks like silver and gold, that have really crazy aim, but no understanding of the game. So I just want to put that out there before getting into the Kovaaks routines, because I want you guys to understand knowing how to play the game is much more important than knowing how to aim. So yeah, that's... Okay, so this first scenario is just Valorant one-taps. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's just a static dots, or cubes in this case. It's like a tile frenzy, right? Except it's extremely small. The number one way to actually use this to benefit you is to just play it for accuracy. It will help you a lot with micro flicks and stopping power. So say someone peeks you and stops. It's a situation like that where you're able to just flick right onto someone's head that is standing still, like this. You can ADS in this scenario by holding right click, but it is a very large crutch, and I recommend you do not do it. If you're going for scores on this, I recommend playing for 100% accuracy and slowing yourself down to make sure you hit every single shot, because that is the number one way you're actually going to benefit from this scenario. Playing for 100% accuracy and making sure you just don't miss anymore. Because if you're just going for speed and missing half of your shots, you are gaining absolute... So I just want to put that out there. That's the first scenario. So this next scenario is floating heads timing 400%. This is a very popular one, especially for tactical FPS, stuff like Valorant and CSGO. Basically, there are just a couple dots that are floating, slightly moving, very slow as you can see. Just like how you would move in the game if you were walking. And when playing this, go for 100% accuracy. I shouldn't have to say that for everything. From this point on, assume I'm going to say 100% accuracy for every scenario. Yeah. These are very good because they're only moving in one straight line, just like how you would in Valorant. It's not like Overwatch where there's jumping. This is why the scenario is so good for Valorant. They're just moving horizontally, just like you would strafe in the game. It is a perfect click timing scenario, and it's also a reload, so it's not accuracy based. Just don't miss 3 times, otherwise, yeah, you reload. Yeah, that's one of the best one-tap scenarios, I think. The next scenario is Pasu Small Reload. This is basically floating heads, but much more difficult. So if you've ever played Pasu, you know exactly what this is. The fact that it's much smaller makes it better for one-taps on Valorant, because they're about the same size as someone's head would be. And they move very quickly. If you can hit something like this is a very good click timing scenario. If you can hit something like this, you'll have no issue hitting it in Valorant. Once again, 100% accuracy. Just the way you need to play everything. This is a very difficult thing. If you can't do Pasu Small Reload, just doing something like regular Pasu is another good supplement for this. Because I know a lot of people aren't going to be able to hit those tiny dots. So just playing regular Pasu until you can actually hit those shots is very, very good. So this next scenario might come as a surprise, because a lot of people seem to forget tracking exists, especially for tactical FPS games. For this one, you can either go with centering 1, centering 2, but what I like to do is Thin Gauntlet. Thin Gauntlet is just it's like any other tracking gauntlet where the targets get progressively thinner and more difficult as it goes through. A lot of people just leave smoothness and tracking out of tactical FPS training and go solely for flicking, so this is a very recommended scenario for me. I highly recommend you guys practice this one, because a lot of people leave this out of their routines, and they miss a lot of shots because of it. Stuff like this is good for when players are swinging on you, and you're not just gonna flick right to the end of their swing, right? You want to trace their swing. That's where this scenario would come in. So make sure you guys actually practice your smoothness and tracking. I recommend centering 1, centering 2, or thin gauntlet. Okay, the next scenario is going to be time speed. You should probably be playing 2 BPES, which is the extra small version of it. And it is basically just headshots. They move horizontally, just like people would in Valorant, with some slight movement. Yeah, once again, play for 100% accuracy, just like every other scenario, and you'll be fine. The last scenario that I'm going to talk about is 1 wall 4 target small reload. It is really not great for Valorant, especially compared to other scenarios I've mentioned before in this video, but it is a good scenario to play just as a benchmark. It is one of the commonly used benchmarks for static clicking, and it will probably help you improve on stuff like Valorant one-taps, and just give you an overall better feel for stopping power and your mousepad. And mouse. Yeah, yeah,